Good evening. Welcome to the May 14 regular meeting of the Glendale City Council. May we have roll call, please?
Yes, council members Brotman,
Here.
Arpetian,
Here.
Kasakian,
Here.
Najarian, Mayor Asatrian.
Here. And may we have your report?
Um,
Oh, Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand up. Join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Please remain standing for the invitation.
Let us begin by acknowledging that we are standing on the indigenous lands of the Tongva people. In honor of the recent Mother's Day celebrations, let us lift up the immeasurable impact of maternal love and resilience, transcending all boundaries of culture, circumstance, and identity. Whether through birth, adoption, mentorship, or caregiving, mothers play multifaceted roles that shape individuals and communities alike. Let us recognize and uplift the diverse experiences and contributions of mothers from all walks of life, fostering a culture of inclusivity, empowerment, and appreciation for the invaluable roles they play in our lives and society. Thank you.
And may we have your report?
The agenda for the May 14, 2024 regular meeting of the Glendale City Council was posted on May 9th, 2024 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Next item.
Next are presentations and appointments. Agenda preview for the meetings of Tuesday, May 21st, 2024 by Assistant City Manager John Tartalian.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Next week, we have a Housing Authority meeting with just approval of minutes on the agenda, as well as a special meeting in the afternoon. That will be what's slated to be our final study session for next year's budget. For the Glendale City Council meeting, a number of items under consent. First, from Water and Power regarding an amendment to an existing contract with ACES. The next is a report from the Police Department regarding acceptance of grant funds in the amount of $1.6 million. Next would be an item from Library Arts and Culture regarding another acceptance of grant funds for $8,200 for the lunch at the library program. And then we have two items from Public Works. The first, approval of the Title VI program for the Glendale Beeline and Dial-A-Ride Transit Program. And the next item is resolution dispensing with competitive bidding to purchase fare collection and contactless open payment system for the Beeline buses. We have one adoption of ordinance related to adopting the 2023 building code, followed by a series of action items that'll round out the evening. The first item from Water and Power regarding the first reading of the ordinance to issue electric bonds. The next from Police Department regarding the purchase of the Police Department mobile command post. We have one item from Public Works seeking to reject bids and re-advertise a revised set of plans and specifications for the La Crescenta Avenue Rehabilitation Project. And we have two final reports from Information Technology. Both of them are resolutions dispensing with competitive bidding. The first one is related to dark fiber and co-location master services agreement, and the next is to authorize use of the CalNet contracts. That concludes next week's preview.
Before we move on to the next item, there was a request from the Armenian American Medical Association to adjourn this meeting in memory of Dr. Misak Barsamian, which I'll read off at the end. And then what's next?
Next is a proclamation designating May 2024 as Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month.
All right. So this is the first time we're actually doing an AAPI Heritage Month proclamation. If I can have the organizations that are present here to accept to join at the podium. We have from the Japanese Consulate, Deputy Consul General Naoshige Aoshima and Makito Ohikata. From our Filipino American Business Association of Glendale, we have Edith Fuentes and other board members. From the Korean Glendale Sister City Association, we have Vice President Howard Park and board member Tai Chun. And from Hwarang Youth Federation Foundation, we have Jasmine Lee. I'm actually surprised that we haven't done this in all these years. The API community is a very diverse one and a growing one in our community. And I'm so thrilled that you're here today and that we're doing this. I'm hoping that this won't be the last. And I think this also serves as an opportunity for us to talk and coordinate efforts on larger API community outreach efforts, recognizing that each have different needs and have different times that you've immigrated to the city, bringing its own challenges and opportunities for us to collaborate. And so I think we as a council have time and again talked about our commitment in ensuring that our diverse voices are heard, not just in the policies we're making and the outreach we're doing, but also how we're coordinating with each of our community organizations in creating larger partnerships. I'm going to read off the proclamation and then I'll give you an opportunity to say a few words. Whereas Asian Americans and Pacific Islander Heritage Month is observed during the month of May to celebrate and acknowledge Asian American and Pacific Islander history, culture, and achievements. And whereas Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month originated with a congressional bill in 1977, and whereas the City of Glendale recognizes the significant contributions, accomplishments, and leaderships of generations of Asian American Pacific Islander individuals in our country, as well as locally here in Glendale, as we continue to work to create a more supportive, inclusive, and equitable community that fully embraces all individuals of Asian descent. And whereas the Glendale community has benefited through the cultural richness, diversity, and generosity of its local Asian American and Pacific Islanders, along with decades of cultural exchange with its many sister cities in Asia. Now, therefore, I, Elena Sateria, Mayor of the City of Glendale, do proclaim May 2024 as Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month and urge every resident to learn more about Asian American and Pacific Islander heritage as we celebrate this month. If you'd like to, yes, say a few words.
I'm going to start.
Sure.
Okay. Honorable Mayor, council members, staff, good evening. I'm Edith Fuentes, past president of the Filipino-American Business Association of Glendale. And with me are some of our board members. Ms. Nora Yacubian, one of our very active advisors. Robert Howard. Ida, one of our board members. And Mike Rasper. And thank you for joining me.
Sorry. I see she's,
Another.
yes, come on up, join us. My apologies.
Join us.
There you go.
Okay. Thank you very much for this proclamation, and we are very honored and humbled that we are doing this for the first time, recognizing our contribution to the community, specifically the City of Glendale. And we will continue to collaborate and work with other Asian American Pacific Islander groups. And we hope to be doing a big AAPI celebration one of these days or one of the years to come. So we celebrate uniqueness and our diversity. As you can see from our group, we have Filipinos, Americans, Armenians, and Chinese, and all that. Thank you again very much, and looking forward to working with all of you.
Honorable Mayor and distinguished council members and respected city manager and all the staff of City Hall, and our dearest friends and people of City of Glendale, it is our honor to celebrate the Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month with all of you. I am Naoshige Aoshima, Deputy Consul General of Japan, and on behalf of the Japanese community, I would like to express our sincere gratitude for this initiative. We would like to pay tribute to the City of Glendale for many efforts it has taken to make our diverse community a better place to live. Although the Japanese community in Glendale is not a bigger one, it benefits from the city's efforts to respect diversity. These efforts include the establishment of Sadao Munemori Square, named after a Glendale-born Japanese American who were awarded Medal of Honor during the World War II. Also, your support for Japanese cultural events at Shosei-an in Brant Park not only provides an opportunity for many people to enjoy Japanese culture, but also provides an opportunity for Japanese young generations who stay away from their home country to learn the history and spirits of Japanese heritage and to share their experience and thoughts with friends of different backgrounds. We, the Consul General of Japan, look forward to continuing to work with the people of Glendale to create a society where diversity is respected for all of us, including the AAPI community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Would anyone from our Korean community like to say a few words?
Chang Li-shu said something, but we weren't prepared, so.
Okay, all right. So I'll just come down. If my colleagues want to join in, you're more than welcome to.
Okay.
You did? What would you do?
Here we go. Yeah, we'll go around you. Okay.
I don't think they can.
One more, one more.
There's always one more.
Thank you. Thank you. Paparazzi.
We should just have like an airdrop system.
There's another one? Yes.
See what you started? Thank you.
Next.
Next is a proclamation designating May 2024 as Jewish Heritage Month.
All right, and this is also the first time we're doing this. We have representatives from the Temple Sinai of Glendale. If you can please come up to the podium, and I will be reading off the. Welcome. Whereas Glendale, California takes pride in its rich history and embraces the diverse cultures that contribute to the unique character of our community, acknowledging the pioneers and immigrants who have played pivotal roles in shaping our city's development, growth, and strength. Whereas the enduring legacy of the Jewish people, rooted in both biblical and contemporary history, has served as a source of inspiration for the founding principles of the United States and continues to influence our nation's dedication to freedom, social justice, and humanitarian causes. Whereas Jewish Americans play integral roles in the success and vitality of our nation and the Glendale community, contributing to various sectors, including leadership, entrepreneurship, and public service. And now, therefore, I, Elena Satrian, Mayor of the City of Glendale, proclaim May 2024 as Jewish American Heritage Month in the City of Glendale. I encourage all citizens to join me in expressing gratitude to the Jewish American community for their enduring contributions to the prosperity and spirit of our city, state, and nation. If you'd like to say a few words, and then I know Councilmember Brotman.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and distinguished council members and city officials and our police officers here. Thank you all so much. We are deeply moved by this proclamation. We appreciate you, and we appreciate the people of Glendale, and we appreciate your making the Jewish community of Glendale always feel welcome and always feel supported and always feel embraced. The Jewish community in Glendale is 96 years young, beginning next month, and we've always felt that this is a home, and the community of Glendale has made us feel at home. So we just want to say thank you again. We are here for you as you are here for us in the Jewish community, and God bless you, and God bless the people of Glendale. Thank you again so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see if Philip's saying something.
Honorable Mayor and City Council members, my name is Philip Hain. I have been a resident of Glendale for almost 32 years, and as a first-generation American whose parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents were forced to leave Nazi Germany, it is just my honor and thank you for recognizing this Jewish American Month and supporting the Jewish community of Glendale.
Yes, and I'm Philip's son, Andrew Hain. I'm so honored to be in the presence of all these amazing people that represent our amazing city of Glendale. And thank you so much for supporting the Jewish community, because anti-Semitism has been on the rise severely, and enough is enough. So thank you for this proclamation. We are so honored. Thank you.
Council, was there anybody else that wanted to say anything? Okay, Councilmember, oh,
Is he
Mr.
gonna put in
Mohill?
a card or?
Do you think I wasn't going to say anything?
no, I was,
Of course. Well, I wasn't going to speak on this subject matter 'cause I didn't know about it. But since I'm here, I'm proud to say that I am a second-generation Jewish person in America. And the United States has made many opportunities, like for the Armenians, second generation first, because United States is a welcoming country, at least it used to be, that if you want to be something, you can go to school, you can get an education. Unlike other societies, like in communist China or Iran, you can't. So as a Jewish American, I'm proud to be up here today. I had my bar mitzvah here when I was age 12. So I'm probably the oldest Jew in town. I'll be 82 this month. And I'm proud of that. Unfortunately, the old Billy's Deli on Orange closed their doors a long time ago. That was the only Jewish deli that I ever remembered. But again, you know, just as Jewish American Heritage Month, I'll take that honor. And thank you all.
thank you, Mr. Mohill.
Well, I might say a word or two, being the only Jew on the Glendale City Council. I'm actually fourth generation. My great-grandparents came escaping the pogroms in Poland and in Russia, as so many did, and arrived in the late 1800s and early 1900s through Ellis Island. So we all know that story. I've been fortunate to grow up Jewish. I went to Jewish day school. So I had extensive Jewish education, and I was involved in Jewish youth groups and all kinds of things pretty much all my life. So it's been an important part of my identity. What's interesting about today is we also have this AAPI Heritage Month. I'm kind of a little bit of an honorary Asian just by experience, because I spent 18 years of my life in Asia. I speak Chinese. My ex-wife is Chinese, and my two daughters are biracial and bilingual. And I cook some really damn good Chinese food if anybody wants to try me out. So I have a little bit of both. But I did think, if you would indulge me, I was looking and I saw the White House put out a statement, and it was really excellent. There was, I just wanted to read 2 paragraphs of it if I could. And what the White House said was, for centuries, the perseverance, hope, and unshakable faith of the Jewish people have inspired people around the world. During Jewish American Heritage Month, We celebrate the immeasurable impact of Jewish values, contributions, and culture on our nation's character and recommit to realizing the promise of America for all Jewish Americans. In 1654, a small band of 23 Jewish refugees fled persecution abroad and sailed into the port of modern-day New York City. They fought for religious freedom, helping define one of the bedrock principles upon which our nation was built. Jewish American culture has been inextricably woven into the fabric of our country. Jewish American suffragists, activists, and leaders marched for civil rights, women's rights, and voting rights. Jewish American scientists, doctors, and engineers have made scientific breakthroughs that define America as a land of possibilities. They have served our nation in uniform on the nation's highest courts and at the highest levels of not my, Joe Biden's, my administration. As public servants, artists, entertainers, journalists, and poets, they have helped write the story of America, making it, as Emma Lazarus's poem on the Statue of Liberty states, a home for the huddled masses yearning to breathe free. Thank you.
Of course. Before I do come down, we were actually gathering yesterday with the committee that was putting together the Armenian Genocide commemorative event. And one of the things that we were talking about was like the part of the programming also included a book reading for kids on Artsakh Street, where they, the committee members had laid out rugs, but so it was really not just a book reading, but also incorporating culture into the reading. And I thought how wonderful it would be that we actually start using that space for our different communities in different months. And so I think as we're going through our library programming to see how we bring these different cultures together in a space where our children can also learn and take in not just the literature, but also the history and culture, like interwoven in how the placement is done. And so, Mr. Galanian, if there's opportunities there for us to do that, I hope again that, this is not gonna be, it might have been the first, but it's not the last. We're stronger together when we're united and we embrace each other's cultures and rich histories. Thank you. Councilman Robin, do you want to do the honors of?
I guess
Yeah.
so. I'll come with you. They weren't mine, but it's okay.
Thank you.
Here, you get to hold this, and we just flank you.
Can I
here.
stand?
Philip and Andrew?
Okay.
Yeah, we'll be in the middle.
Where are we looking? Next item?
Next item is consent items, including minutes. The following are routine and may be acted upon by one motion. Any member of council or the audience requesting separate consideration may do so by making such request before a motion is proposed. We have one speaker card for item 4C.
All right, so do any of my colleagues want to move the remainder?
I'll move the balance of the consent calendar.
Second.
Roll call.
Council members Brotman,
Yes.
Karpetian,
Yes.
Kasakian,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Mayor Asatryan.
Yes. All right, and we'll take 4C.
4C. 4C is Public Works regarding award of professional services agreement for Montrose parking analysis and update of employee parking program. One motion authorizing the city manager or a designee to enter into and execute a PSA with Transpo Group to review, develop, and update all aspects of the Montrose parking analysis, and provide recommendations for an update of the employee parking program in the Montrose Shopping Park in the amount of $193,000 $250.
Right. I would like to hear the speaker before we move on to the item.
Our one speaker is Alan Durham. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Mayor Satri and members of the council, thank you for letting me speak. Several months ago at City Council, Bradley Calvert proposed that 4 city-owned parking lots be considered for leasing or development by third parties. One of these parking lots was the largest parking lot in Montrose Shopping Park area, Lot 3. It seems premature to have identified Lot 3 in Montrose as a potential city-owned property for leasing or development before this $200,000 Montrose parking analysis is completed. I'm not saying there's necessarily any conflict here, but it is a little bit confusing. Thank you.
Do any of my colleagues, I don't see any questions, so
I'll move the item.
Second.
roll call.
Council members Brotman,
Yes.
Garpetian,
Yes.
Kasakian,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Mayor Asatrian.
Yes. Next.
Next is city council and staff comments.
I don't see any. Mr. Garpetian?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Hello, everyone. A couple of items I'd like to mention. One is some of the lampposts that we have in Glendale, they're deteriorated, and I received several emails on them, and they're in Rossmoyne and mostly north part of the Glendale. So if you can take a look at it, and whatever has to be done, they're kind of not in a good shape, and there are holes in the bottom or what have you. So I just want to bring it to your attention. Yes.
Councilmember Garpetian, do you have specific locations?
I can provide it to you.
Please.
Yes, I have photos, and I don't want to take too much time on an item, but I have. Yes, I do have the locations. Also, we received several emails on smoking in one or two locations in Kenneth Village. So we need to address that because we receive so many emails. It's difficult to answer them right away in half an hour. So I don't want residents to think that we ignored their requests. So that's why I'm bringing it up here. The other issue is the street vendors. I had several meetings. I know we had a report done or had a presentation early this year. There are several issues that needs to be addressed, and some of them are blocking the ADA ramps on the sidewalks. And my understanding was if you are in residential areas, you cannot have a stationary vending, what do you call it, vending booths or tables or what have you. You can have it on a cart, you can move it around, but they are there, and I know that they have to obtain business licenses, some insurance, and health department. I know we have some issues with enforcement, but there are cities that they're enforcing it. We all know that people are entrepreneurs, and they're trying to work and take care of their families, but there has to be a balance between them and some of the restaurants that they have to go through this whole process of permitting and health department, city fees, paying rent, paying deposit, workers' comp, employee fees, business tax, and everything else. And then I can go and set up a shop in front of their restaurant, or maybe 50 feet away from them, and get into a business a week later. We have to really keep the balance and enforce the laws as much as possible on that. And also the live performers. There were restaurants that people would set up shop in front of them and have this amplified music very loudly, and one of them was Frida's. I don't know if the gentleman is still there. Yeah, they're a really good voice, but Frida's is a Mexican restaurant, and they had their music inside, but very mellow, so it wouldn't bother their clientele, their customers. But there was a loud music outside, and it was interfering. So I think we need to really pay good attention and see what can be done on that. As far as brand demonstration project, we talked about it too much. I'm not going to go there today. And happy belated Mother's Day to all the mothers. Somehow we forgot last week. I think the meeting went way too long, and I wanna take this opportunity and wish everyone a good year for all our mothers. And lastly, I want to ask the city manager and or city attorney or our city clerk, as far as our invocations go. We used to have our faith-based communities come in and do the invocations, not every week, but once at least every other week, or once every 3 weeks, once a month. I think it's a great idea to bring that back. And when Councilmember Kasakian was the city clerk, he was, I don't know how it's handled, so I want to bring that up and make sure that we do that. I think it's very healthy for all of us to have that faith-based preaching in our lives. So with that, Madam Mayor, thank you so much, and I hope we can start soon on the invocation as well. Thank you.
Councilmember Garpetian, thank you for bringing that up. We actually had invited multiple faith-based leaders to come and give an invocation. Unfortunately, at the moment, my office is highly impacted with a shortage of staff. We are really running on a very short, very little staffing at the moment. So whenever, at the time when we're fully staffed, we'd love to resume that, because it takes time and planning to invite folks to participate in this. So once we are fully staffed, we'd love to invite people to come.
And how many more staff do you need to have to be fully staffed?
Well, we are short. 30% of our staff have left, so we're in the process of hiring, and hopefully we can be fully staffed so that we can resume some of the things that we used to do.
And so I appreciate that. I know that your office is short-staffed, but I think this is something that with a little bit help from different departments and maybe the management team, we can manage this. I don't think it's that. I know you're short-staffed, but I don't think it's that big of a burden to schedule with few people once every other week to show up here and say a few good words. But point well taken. I hope we can get this done. And City Manager Golanian, if there is any help that we can provide, so I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Najarian?
Thank you. I made statements last week during council comments in which I asserted that there is no privacy law preventing parental notification of gender change in schools. Since I made those comments, I've received quite a few inquiries from residents and some council members. Now, just because I claim that the governor and the attorney general say that there is not a law preventing parental notification doesn't mean that it's true. And just because Mr. Brotman stated that there is a state law preventing parental notification in schools about gender change doesn't mean that he is true. But the point is that it was one of the findings that Mr. Brotman alleged against me and put forward to deny me the mayorship. And although my other colleagues were silent on those issues, I must presume that it's their position and the city's position that they also adopted the proposed findings of Mr. Brotman, so that it was not in the best interests of the city to follow city law and select me as mayor. We heard the clerk officially declare Ms. Asaturian the mayor. The city attorney presumably agreed with that statement of the proposed findings by Mr. Brotman and let the city clerk give her proclamation. So what I'm asking for, I might even say demanding, is that the city attorney review the material that I provided on that subject, namely the admissions and declarations in federal court in the case Mirabelli v. Olson, and I have the citation if you'd like it, by the attorneys for Governor Newsom and Attorney General Bonta, that the parental secrecy policy is not state law, and that the allegations claiming that there is such a law made by Mr. Brotman are false, and his adopted finding against me unfounded, without force and effect, null and void. But I know what you're saying. I know what you're thinking. Aren't you challenging the city, alleging that the city attorney and council deprived me of my constitutional rights? Well, that part is true. And therefore, I believe that Mr. Garcia is conflicted from giving us an opinion on this issue. And I, as an elected member of this body, still carry all the rights and privileges of this office, namely the right to request an opinion on a relevant and germane legal issue that was before this council. In fact, it states that right in our charter, in Article 8, that the city attorney shall give an opinion requested by an officer of this city. Now, I don't want Mr. Garcia's office to handle it. And as a member of the State Bar of California, with all the professional responsibility and ethics requirements he owes to his client, the city, he is clearly conflicted, and he must recuse himself from researching and giving an opinion on this item. Likewise, I would object to the Colantuno law firm that you all have hired to give that opinion, because he's conflicted as well. They are in a legally adverse position to me. So I request an independent law firm to review the allegation that Mr. Brotman made regarding that state law and the response that I gave last week and presented to the City Council, and to get their opinion on the state of the California law with regard to Education Code 211.5, as well as the admissions, the force and effect of the admissions made by our state chief executive and our chief law enforcement officer. And for that opinion to be placed in the official records of the city. And I want this done expeditiously, because any delay will have a prejudicial effects on my rights as a member of the council. That is it.
Mr. Galanian?
Yes, Madam Mayor, Member of City Council, Mr. Calvert has an announcement to make regarding a public engagement event.
Well, I'd like a response to that.
Oh, sorry.
Councilmember, Madam Mayor, members of council, Councilman Najarian will agendize the item for next week pursuant to our policy.
Well, I don't want this to come before council. I want an opinion from the city attorney. It's not a council action at this point.
It is a council action because you're asking me not to provide an opinion. You're asking the council to authorize an opinion. Only they can do that under the Brown Act and authorize that. So we'll bring it back. We'll figure out the problem. And I'm not fully ready at this time to respond to your contentions. I disagree with them. I disagree with some of the presumptions in the contentions. And so all I can promise you right now is I will look at it, and then we will have it agendized for next week to decide whether to agendize and how to do so.
Are you saying that you don't think you're conflicted in giving this opinion?
I didn't say that.
Well, that was one of my contentions.
I know. You had many contentions.
Najarian, next week will be the opportunity for us to have that discussion, just like any other item.
Well, as I said, this isn't something that come before council like, let's do bike lanes. This is an opinion that can be done off the record and in terms of a report. And we do that all the time. We get reports all the time without putting it on as new business. But if you want to change the rules again, that's fine.
I think the issue, Mr. Najarian, Councilmember Najarian, isn't anyone trying to however you characterized it. I think the issue is that your request requires a budgetary allocation, right? If you're going to hire an independent outside counsel, which is not within the budget, and it can be, by your assertion, done unilaterally by any council member, I don't recall at any point in the almost 20 years that you've been on this council, and I've been sitting there as city clerk and now up here alongside you, that any council member has had that authority. Am I mistaken in that, Mr. Galanian, Mr. Takhtalian, or Mr. Garcia?
You're correct in our practice.
So the hiring of a third-party counsel for review of some action is something that needs to be decided through majority action in an open session, and you know that.
Well,
Unless we come up with a process where we set aside some funds for circumstances like the one that you're alleging, perhaps, but you know that is not a practice nor policy nor something that can be done. So you can keep saying it as many times as you want. It doesn't make it any more right. If you wish to take action, there are other vehicles through the law that are available to you.
the problem with that reasoning is that you are all adverse and biased in this issue. And that simply you could say, no, we don't want to do this. We don't care if the law that Najarian stated is true or not. And it's germane to the selection of a mayor. So it's not just a regular Brown Act issue, Mr. Kasakian, because this issue has never come before the city council in this manner. And I guarantee you that. So, Mr. City Attorney, I suggest, whether there's budget or not, that you seek counsel and not become embroiled in a conflict of interest, because that's your state bar duty.
I understand my state bar duties, council member.
I'm reminding you.
All right.
I'm gonna have to.
Mr. Galanian, did you have your name
Mr.
still on
Calvert
there?
was going to make an announcement.
No, I would like.
Oh, are
let
you
me-
trying to
let me-
respond?
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
I think it's better. Let me go. And I wasn't going to do this. I really didn't want to bring up this issue again, but last week, and again now, Mr. Najarian brought up the issue of his interview with the California Insider. And again, what he says is misleading, and I'll explain why. And in case anybody has forgotten, this is the interview that he did where he repeated lies about GUSD, and the interview being the basis for my finding that it was not in the best interest of Glendale that he be elevated to mayor. You see, he's trying to make it sound like my main problem with the interview was this fact, the way he said that the school was withholding information from parents. My problem with the interview is much bigger than that. Here's what he said in the interview, just to set the stage, and I'll quote, "They," meaning the teachers here at GUSD or the administration, "they were approaching the children and informing them that if you're not sure whether you're a boy or a girl, don't worry. We can help you change if that's what you want, and we don't even have to tell your parents about it." That's what he's talking about now. Now, it's true that I objected to the point he made about the school not having to tell parents. I objected to it because he left out the fact that GUSD is prohibited by law from disclosing private information like this to parents. And I might have mentioned lawsuits filed by the state against the Chino Valley and Temecula Valley school districts for disregarding these laws, lawsuits which are still continuing. But that wasn't the most troubling thing about the interview that he gave, and that wasn't really the basis for my finding. What was most troubling was that he repeated outright lies about Glendale Unified. Number one, that they're teaching kids how to have oral sex. And number two, that they're approaching kids to offer gender-affirming care, including hormone treatments. This is what he said. Let me quote what he said first so we're all crystal clear here. First, when asked why parents were protesting against the district, he said, quote, "It probably started during the pandemic when some parents realized that the materials their children were being presented with was not appropriate, inappropriate sex education. Teachers that wanted to explain the proper way for oral sex between two members of the same sex. Note that he used the word realized. Not parents thought this, whether right or wrong. He stated it as a fact, and it's untrue. And note also when the interviewer seemed surprised and asked if this is really happening, his answer was, yes, definitely. So that's about the schools teaching kids to have oral sex. The other thing he said, and I'll quote again, he said, it got to the point where they were approaching the children and informing them that if you're not sure whether you're a boy or a girl, don't worry, we can help you change if that's what you want. We don't even have to tell your parents about it. And they can offer, they call it gender affirming care, which is counseling, which is advice, which is a commencement of medical procedures, hormonal procedures, and the rest. Again, obviously not true. As I've explained before, I talked to him about these lies. I asked him what evidence he had to back them up. And here's what I got. On the oral sex claim, he based that on the girl that came to counsel with her parents, alleging that a teacher taught the class about scissoring. Ignore for a minute that scissoring isn't oral sex. The point is that Mr. Najarian went on a TV program and told the world that GUSD is teaching kids how to have oral sex based on what? The uncorroborated allegations of one kid who came to the podium appearing to be under duress with family in the back filming it for social media. Allegations that have never been backed up by anyone else who was supposedly in this class which taught scissoring. And allegations which are totally inconsistent with how things work at GUSD and were likely fabricated for political purposes. So that's the one thing. On the hormone thing, besides some hearsay, he based that on an Instagram post, which I actually have here, and I was going to put it up, but I'm not going to bother. It's an Instagram post. It shows the picture of somebody chuckling, and the caption says, us at GSA, which is the Gay Student Association, us at GSA, when we remember we have a meeting tomorrow at lunch in Dr. Platt's room, we will be presenting on safe binding and answering your questions. See you there. So that's the evidence that GUSD is approaching kids to offer gender-affirming care. You told me that, okay? Because Mr. Najarian says binding is a form of gender-affirming care. There are two problems here. First, binding is not hormones or medical procedures. Second, this post is from the Gay Student Alliance at Crescenta Valley High School, a student club. Students talking to other students. They meet in a classroom, presumably Mr. Platt's classroom, as all clubs do. A teacher is present at club meetings, but only to make sure everyone is safe. The teacher is not instructing anything, nor would it be appropriate for a teacher to intervene in the students' freedom to meet and talk about what they want. All I can say is, seriously, Mr. Najarian, you're a public official. You're also a lawyer with special responsibilities to uphold the truth. And you make zero effort to check your facts before you blast them on TV. We're dealing with a subject that was the basis of serious divisions in the community, divisions that have led to violent demonstrations. Lies like these have led to threats against students, teachers, administrators, members of the community, school board members, and even some of us on this dais. They continue to create an atmosphere of fear and distrust. Many LGBTQ students are on edge. It's affecting their mental health. You might not care about them or us, but this is serious stuff. You don't trifle with it. And that is why I made the finding that Mr. Najarian is not qualified to be mayor. And I'm almost done, but I'll say he still has time to make things right. He can admit that there is no basis in fact for the things he said, which he knows is true. He can apologize. He can join in a truth and reconciliation effort to bring folks together for a fact-based discussion of parents' concerns around these issues. I said to him before, and I'll say it again, if he shows some leadership here, I am open to giving him the opportunity to be mayor next year. But if he continues to double down and show disregard for the truth and the safety of our community, he will probably never be mayor again. And that's all I have to say.
We should probably agendize this, because I have answers to almost every one of those points. And if you feel that you'd like to get into a discussion, I'm happy to agendize it.
But we had a discussion. This is what you told me, so that's all I know.
Well, we can talk about binding and how that affects hormone development. We can talk, well,
We have an
we
have
can
an
talk
agenda.
about a lot of things. So no one wants to agendize it, then we're just going to be sniping at each other during council comments for the months to come. Why don't we?
That's
Can
up to
we-
you. I won't say anything more if you don't.
Have a back and forth on this. It seems like both of you have made your comments. Mr. Garcia, is it to speak on this? Okay, Mr. Garpetian.
Look, I think we all have a job to do up here. I sat on this dais for 5 years. I can't believe what I'm hearing up here. I'm so uncomfortable. It's a toxic conversation. Public is watching. My children are watching. I think we may not be. I wasn't part of any of this discussion, and I'm glad I wasn't part of any of this discussion. And I don't want to insert myself into it right now. What I'm trying to say is, let's get back to the businesses of city. Mr. Najarian, I have a question for you. I think you are the senior council member. You made your point. I think the point is well taken. What is the goal? Let's say for some strange reason, we had the opportunity to hire an attorney tonight, and they issue a statement or an opinion, and they said, you were right. What happens then? What is the because we have to get to the bottom of this. We can't go back and forth on this issue every week. We have tons of work to do. And I wanna really make this thing to just settle down and calm down a little bit. Let's say it happened and the opinion says you were right. Then what?
Madam Mayor, members of council, I apologize, Councilman Garpetian. It's a fair question, but we're gonna at this point get into a back and forth when something's not on the agenda. But
because I like to understand what comes after that, even if it happens next week. Let's say we agendized it, we said, okay, go hire another attorney. We take your word that City Attorney Garcia has a conflict. Let's say it all lines up. Then what happens? We need to get to the bottom of this. We need to move on from this issue. We have to. We have responsibilities that we have to fulfill. I want to understand what is your ask today to agendize it for next week? Can I ask that question, Mr. Garcia? Because I have to
briefly, I
may I
think.
just understand what is your ask?
As I said, I would like a legal opinion as to the issue of parental notification. It is something that was raised in council. One of the reasons, not the only reason, one of the reasons that Mr. Brotman gave, and I'd like to, one by one, knock those reasons down and prove that there's no basis for any finding. That's what I'd like to do. And I intend to do that as well, one way or the other. I had no chance, and it goes back to what went on in that meeting. I had no chance to rebut. I had no chance to bring witnesses. I had no notice of what was going on. It wasn't a fair trial. So that's what I'd like to do, and I intend to do it, because I think the whole process was flawed.
Okay, I'm going back to my last question. Let's say you knocked all of these issues down, and you were right. What's next?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question.
If I may, I'm sorry.
is a back and
I understand your desire for that question. All I can suggest is,
Okay.
I will provide what I think is the appropriate response. we can agendize this for next week under the new business item, and then council can have a discussion about how to move forward. There's also, may also be an opportunity to discuss in closed session. So
Can we do a closed session on this?
I would prefer to have this discussion in public. I don't want anyone to then make presumptions why it was in closed session. So if you'd like to have that discussion next week, please.
The only
add it
reason
to
I
the agenda.
suggested closed session, because we actually have been threatened with litigation, so it's totally appropriate to have a discussion about litigation in closed session, but if council wants to have it in open session,
I think in
happy to
just-
do that.
I think in just addressing Councilmember Najarian's, I would like to make sure that he has the opportunity to do that. Mr. Karpetian, did you have anything else?
No, so this will be agendas for next week?
Yes.
His
Okay.
his
No, I have
request
no
will
more
be
questions.
agendized.
Thank you.
All right. Happy belated Mother's Day. Just wanted to wish a happy Mother's Day to all the mamas in Glendale and beyond. Also wanted to note Pasadena Humane Society is having a free adoption day on May 25th from 10 to 2 p.m. All the fees are going to be waived. And then the only thing that I will comment is, I think Councilmember Najarian said he's to presume that the other colleagues are also under the same basis for their decision. Those assumptions can't be made because I clearly made my case very clear. And I don't appreciate, being tied to words that I have not used. So I'll leave it at that. Councilmember Kasakian.
I had put in my request to speak, Madam Mayor, prior to the comments being completed, only because I felt that the discussion was going beyond what was, I think, practice for council member and staff comments. And I do want to just simply use this opportunity to say that we need to tighten up our policies as to what we use this portion of the agenda to talk about and discuss, and how much time we spend on it, for the sake of transparent meetings and restoring trust in our governance. Thanks.
And then before I hand it off to Mr. Calvert, this is something I brought up a couple of times in the last 2 years, but I think perhaps the week after Mother's Day is very fitting. But one of the things that I've known was previous councils have stripped the powers of the Women's Commission over the years. It wasn't done just once, but it was done on several terms. I've asked our city attorney to send me those revisions. The Women's Commission used to have programming, it used to have staff, it used to have be able to do its own fundraising. And I'd like to agendize discussing bringing the powers of the Women's Commission back. I think this is something that's way overdue when you look at our surrounding cities and counties and where the nation is going. They tend to invest much more in this space. I think it speaks to our city's values and where we invest and budget. And so I'd like to have that as part of the new business item next week. Mr. Calvert.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Two things I just want to announce really quick. We have a couple, or about 3 public engagement events coming up that we're hoping we can get as much participation in as possible. The first is a meeting next Wednesday. It's an in-person meeting at Spar Heights Community Center. As you all know, we are working on the multifamily and mixed-use development standards for residential. We received your feedback a few weeks ago. We're taking that back out to the public to get their input as well. So next Wednesday, we'll be having that at 6:45. As doors will open, presentation will be at 7. Anybody who can't make it out in person, the following Wednesday, we will be doing a Teams meeting for this. So anybody who wants to join from home, can't make it out to the community center, and wants to get some information on these development standards or to provide feedback, that'd be a great opportunity to do so. And then we have one other I'd like to touch on really quick, and we are working on the environmental justice element. That's part of our general plan. It's a new piece that has been required by the state of California. Once we update a certain number of general plan elements, we have to start incorporating this, so we are in the middle of developing this element. This really seeks to make sure that there are not disproportionate environmental impacts on our community, whether that be on certain demographics, certain age ranges, income levels, whatever it may be, and to ensure that we have mitigating measures for it. So we'll have an online survey. I believe we have it in about 6-7 different languages. So we're trying to make that as accessible as possible, but there'll be an opportunity to provide input on housing, water quality, air quality, things of that nature. So we invite everyone to participate in any one of these events so we get as much feedback as possible prior to returning to council. Thank you.
Thank you. I see no other comments. Let's go to the next item.
The next item is community event announcement, 3 minutes. We have 5 speaker cards.
I do want to make a note because I think there were some comments made from the audience last week. We've set it up as such that at the end of the 3-minute mark, the microphone automatically turns off. I want to make sure that these chambers are equitable to everyone that comes, that there's no favoritism of who shows up at the podium, so everyone gets allotted the same amount of time. And so it's not being turned off based off of the individual, but just at the end of the time that you have. Please.
Thank you, Mayor Asatrian. We have our first speaker is Mike Mulhill.
Good evening, council members. My name is Mike Mohill. I wish Councilman Dan Broughton was in the room right now, because when he was the mayor, a woman by the name of Marina Vivar and her daughter, Thelma Gonzalez, came before the city council and talked about sex being done in the schools. She had told the schools she did not want to engage in any type of sexual activity because she was a Christian. Mr. Brotman and the rest of the council said, "You're at the wrong place. You shouldn't be talking here." And I went ahead that evening, contacted Jordan Henry, and he in turn went on, put it on social media. Now the picture that was being taken, Councilman Najarian, was by Marina Vivar partner, Rolando. Not for social media, just for their own personal. They did not know they were gonna become a celebrity overnight. Now, scissoring, okay, can either be taken as oral sex among women or fornication, however you like it. Now, Mr. Brotman can say whatever he wants to say about sex, but the facts are there. Now, Ray Shelton, a former school teacher, has written in our Your Glendale Community newsletter several times what went on in the schools while he was an instructor. And he will defend Councilman Aaron Najarian's comments about the sex in the schoolrooms. And notification, not notification. Okay? Pronouns. This is disgusting that this council has decided to say Mr. Najarian is not qualified because he talked about what was going on in the schools. You know? Why don't you listen, look at yourself in the mirror, Councilman Brotman. I notice you're still gone from this meeting. Hope the people in the viewing audience notice that Mr. Dan Brotman, the one who made this whole thing a big deal, is not in the room. Maybe he's engaging in scissoring right now with somebody. Who knows? After all, he knows all about sex. Ask him. He knows all. He's an expert in that area. Just ask him. He can tell you up and down the, okay? So, why don't you read my community newsletter several times by Ray Shelton. He's the teacher. He is the whistleblower that went on at GUSD. None of you people are whistleblowers. He was the whistleblower. And right now he's suing GUSD for being fired. Did you all know that? Of course, Mr. Broughton wouldn't know that because he's chosen not to read my community newsletter directly, but I'm sure he reads it indirectly from a third party. So let's get the facts correct, Mr. Brockman. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Our next public comment is by Linda Beck.
Okay, I said I wasn't going to read, but I think I'm going to read a little bit. So good evening, Council, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be up here this evening and to really thank you so much for being visionary in your decision to move forward with the Share Space pilot project on North Brand. Implementing this project that provides a safety benefit to all who use the North Brand corridor, whether that be a pedestrian, able-bodied or disabled, young or old, cyclist or driver, in spite of the pressures from drivers other cities have faced when doing the same, clearly shows that you are willing to make decisions, to innovate and make changes, even though they cause a level of discomfort for some residents. But to address the bike lanes specifically, which is what I really want to talk about, just because the bike lanes don't benefit the larger portion of the population, they may not seem like they're valuable to everyone, but they do matter to some, and you proved that those some matter by deciding to move forward and implement bike lanes. Sure, those numbers are smaller, but they are appreciated by those of us who use them, and contrary to many opinions that I've been hearing, cyclists supporting safety for all is not cyclists being selfish because of a bike lane build. It's merely us as humans caring about humans. So bike on, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Next, we have Lisa Kuda.
Hi. Since this was the community events part of the comments, I just wanted to say I wanted to encourage the community to come out and visit the North Brand demonstration project. I've been visiting it almost every day since it's been on construction as one who lives right around there. And I just want to say to the city council, yeah, maybe everything doesn't work, but so far I personally have discovered 2 new businesses that I wouldn't have patronized because I had to worry so much when walking around there and driving out of Trader Joe's. But now I was able to actually see them and go, oh, hey, I'm gonna go buy some fancy dates because there's a new fancy date store there. Just on Sunday, we were casually riding. We saw at least 10 other cyclists in the bike lanes during that time. And we saw a group of people who were eating at the muffin place too, just to come by on their bikes, and also a lot more pedestrians. So far, I mean, it would be great to see what that impact is. The only time I've had to wait when in traffic in my car was when the driver in front of me just didn't see the light change, and because they were tapping on their phone. And that's like the only traffic jam I've seen personally. But I can't wait to see the data on it. But it has been nice not seeing those cars zoom out, do a crazy U, and peel out in the center. So far so good, and I hope that the rest of the city comes and checks it out with an open mind.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Leonor Solis.
While she comes up, I actually have a technical question. Mr. Garcia, are we able to just add / oral communications to this section on the agenda so it's clear for the public?
Mayor Satrian, so the listing of the agenda items is put forth in the code. We have in the past noted that oral communications will be allowed, like 5 speakers, up to 5 speakers will be allowed. And we can certainly make that change.
If you can,
Yeah.
that'd be great. Thank you.
My name is Lenore Solis. I'm a resident, and I'm here to support Monica and DeSaul about a situation they're having at their apartment complex. We have pictures, and I want to commend your inspector. Tell him his name?
Daniel Reeve.
He's been wonderful. I mean, very, very attentive, very aware. If you look at the pictures that we've handed out here, they have a severe issue with mold in their building. And a gentleman purchased the properties, an attorney, I think his name is Gagliotti, a few years ago, and it's just been a nightmare where workers were sent into, how many years have you lived there?
21.
21 years. So it was owned by somebody else. This gentleman has owned it for a while, but he is definitely a slum landlord. And I'm appalled to know that this is going on in Glendale. And I've heard from other people regarding the same gentleman and in the company that he runs, where he owns several properties. But if you look at the pictures, the mold is just unbelievable. It's just so rampant. They will come in to make a repair and not finish it, and then rats will come in from the open, they'll break walls, or they'll dig underneath, and they don't come back to finish the work, and then rats come in, roaches come in. But the real issue is the mold because of the ceiling. The roof is just horrible. And so all of these issues have been, and now there's a unit, so there's a unit right in, this is the granddaughter, and her grandmother is the tenant who has lived there since her mother, in fact, when they moved there, she was in her mom's tummy. And now Miriam is she's the guardian for her grandchildren, and so she's raising her grandchildren there, and Miriam doesn't drive, and she's illiterate. So they live right near, the school that they attend on Pacific, and so it's much easier for her to get the children to school and back. But the landlord insists on moving her to a unit on Durand Street when there's a unit available right next to her unit that was already cleaned of mold and all of that. But he refuses to allow her to move into that unit. He insists that she move into a unit on Durand. I don't know what the laws are regarding this. I don't know anything about that. I just think that you should know that this man owns several buildings in Glendale, and they're all full of mold. And I think your inspector should be commended for the concern that he's shown the family. But it's just, he's just unrelenting in his insistence that they move to Durand when she doesn't drive, she doesn't have a car, she's illiterate, so it's not that easy for her to get around town. And he just, instead of just letting them move right next door at a place where they've lived for over 30 years, they're not allowed.
Thank you. Our staff is, Mr. Calvert, if you can have a conversation with them about this, that'd be great. Next item.
Our final public comment is by Andranik Zadurian.
Պարոն Անդրանիկ, թարգմանիչ կարիք ունեք։ Ունեք թարգմանիչ։ I did say,
Yes, we have a
I asked if
translator.
there's a translator. He wants one, so.
And so he gets 6 minutes.
Yes. Okay.
Hello.
All right.
Ուրեմն 2001 թվականից ես գրվել եմ Section 8-ի համար։
I've been, since 2001, I wrote my name in the Section 8 program.
Մինչև հիմա ոչ մի քանի անգամ եկել եմ, դիմել եմ ձեզի, որ չեք պատասխանում։ Ինձ ասում են գնա հայկենտրոն, գնացել եմ հայկենտրոն, ուղարկում են City-ն ուղարկում են։
I've come here multiple times to get an update in regards for my application. However, I've been always told to go to the HOM, and the HOM tells me to come back to the city council. HOM is a
Armenian Relief Society.
Yes. And then they tell me to come back to the city. City tells me to go back to the Armenian Relief Society, and there is no definite answer.
Ինձ ասում են որ homeless-ներին եք տալիս մենակ։
They're telling me it's only being given to the homeless.
Իսկ ես թոշակառու մարդ եմ, իմ ու կնոջ աշխատավարձը հազիվ տան վարձ է լինում։
And I'm a retired man, and my income and my wife's income is barely enough to cover for the house expenses.
Խնդրում եմ, եթե կարող եք օգնել, որ շուտ ստանամ, որովհետև
I kindly request that if you can help me so that I can obtain Section 8 housing.
Քանի իմ շրջապատից շատ մարդիկ են, որ ինձանից էլ 10 տարի ուշ են եկի, բայց դարձյալ ստացել են։
There are people around me who have came and applied 10 years after me, but they received it.
Խնդրում եմ, եթե կարող եք օգնել։
Please, if you can, help me.
I'm going to choose to respond to this. I'm going to say it in Armenian and then I'll translate. Պարոն Անտանիկ, ինչպես գիտեք, Section 8-ի ցանկը մնում է, եթե գրված եք, հերթով է գնում։ Բայց այս խորհրդի նիստը նաև նույն ժամանակ տարբեր գումարներ է դրել պրոջեկտների վրա, որը մինչև այս տարվա վերջ եւ մյուս տարվա վերջ պետք է սարքվեն։ Եթե մինչև այսօր ձեր անունը չեք հանձնել այդ մեծահասակների շենքերի համար, ապա դա էլ առիթ է, որ կարողանաք անեք։ Բայց մենք ոչ մեկս անկեղծ ով որ ինչ էլ ձեզի ասի, անկեղծ պատասխանը այն է, որ ոչ մեկ չի կարող ձեզի ցանկի վերևը դնել։ Լավ։ Եղավ։ All I said was that no one can bump anyone up on the Section 8 list, but we have invested money in senior housing, and if there's an opportunity for him to apply for those, that as they become available, if staff can also help them get on that list so he gets the notification and is able to apply. Շնորհակալություն. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Next are adoption of ordinances. A, community development regarding ordinance amending sections of Title 30 of the Glendale Municipal Code 1995 relating to design review, entitlement processes, parking requirements for certain uses, and miscellaneous zoning code cleanups. 4/30/2024, introduced by Brotman.
I'll move the item unless there's any comment or report.
Second.
Right. Should we wait for Mr. Karpetian? All right, let's just go ahead.
Well, I would say he needs 4 votes, but I mean, if you're all in favor, it's not gonna be an issue. You want to see if he's available?
I don't mean to put him on the spot. No, okay. All right, let's just move forward.
Council members Brotman,
Yes.
Garpetian,
Yes, sorry, my mic was off.
Garpetian, Kasakian,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Mayor Asatrian.
Yes. Next item.
Next is action items. Action item A, city attorney regarding consideration of modifications to nomination process for boards and commissions. 1, resolution revising recruitment, nomination, and selection process for appointment of individuals to boards and commissions. 2, motion providing direction to staff.
All right, do we have a report?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Thank you. Mayor, members of council, last year in 2023, the council revised the process for nominating the members of our boards and commissions, going from the individual council member nomination system to a rotating panel system. The panel system had been in place since prior to 2008. As the system has been implemented in the last year, council expressed some concern that there was the assignment of repeat panels being assigned to the same board or commission. Other concerns have been raised about council members not having the opportunity to nominate somebody to a board or commission when another council member may have served on 1 or 2 panels. Particular concern has been expressed about the lack of equality or equity in all council members having the opportunity to nominate for decision-making boards such as Planning Commission or DRB, as opposed to the advisory boards. We were asked to look at a system that could ensure equal opportunity or equity in the nomination process, so that each council member was having an opportunity to nominate to boards and commissions. For example, not allowing a council member to nominate until all council members have had a chance to nominate. not allowing a council member to have a second or third nomination when other council members may have not had a chance to make the nomination. And so as we started looking at drafting language and working how the implementation would work with the clerk's office, we came to the basic conclusion that the challenge is that the randomness and rotation of the panel system is at odds with having that equitable distribution of nominations. And there's a couple reasons for this. So number one, the terms are no longer coterminous with the term of the nominating council member. So as before, a council member would make a nomination and then that board or commissioner would serve until that council member's term was up. Now that the board commission members serve for 4 years. And then on top of that, you have the situation where a number of council members made nominations prior to the transition to the panel system. The other reason, obviously, that we discussed previously is that the system currently rotates across all the boards and commissions. So over time, it should even out, but in the short term, that's not occurring. So our recommendation is to maintain the panel system if the council desires to do so, with the one modification that we previously recommended, which would skip a panel that's previously been assigned and has made a nomination to a particular board and commission. So this is what happened in civil service, right? I think Mayor and Asatrian and Councilmember Brotman were assigned to civil service. They nominated an individual. That individual was appointed to the commission. Then we came through the rotation again, and those same two council members were assigned to a separate panel. The council chose to skip that panel and go to the next panel. This modification would just make that an automatic process. If that happened again, that panel would be skipped over and then put to the next nomination for a subsequent commission. Another method is to have the panel system rotate, but per commission. That is going to add complexity to the system, and we still have the fact that sitting council members have already made nomination to many boards and commissions, and so you're still going to have potentially that repeat problem, and you're still going to have the situation where not every council member is going to have, at least in the short term, an opportunity to participate in the process to nominate somebody to a board or commission. Additionally, as I noted, the equality of representation among council members making nominations, especially for the decision-making commissions, it seems like the most effective way to adequately address if that's the primary concern is to go back to the old system of individual nominations. Now, I'm not recommending that. We're not recommending that. It would create challenges. Obviously, you've just nominated a number of individuals to these boards and commissions. But if that's the principal concern, the primary concern, that's what that system was geared to address: individual nominations, then adopted by the full council. The last comment I have is that, as you know, there's a number of current vacancies among the panels. By my count, there's there's over 15 vacancies. So that's another issue that I think will clear up some of these issues. So that is a recommendation to leave the panel system as it is now. Make the tweak that would provide that if a panel has already nominated an individual to the current board or commission, that panel be skipped over and a new panel be put in its place. That will at least get a new panel that involves at least one new council member and possibly two to be involved in a particular board and commission. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I'll conduct the meeting until Mayor Asatrian returns. Do any of my colleagues have any requests to speak and comments on this? Is Mr. Garpetian the pro tem? Then I'm sorry, I was still in the month of April.
No worries. No worries. You can continue. It's not.
In that case, I request to speak, Mayor Pro Tem Garpetian.
Go ahead,
Okay, thanks. My only concern was that what happened with one of the panels was we had the same two council members in reverse order for the same commissioner or board. That's what I would like to avoid, and I think it's just common sense.
What we submitted as part of this package, that would address that. So whether it was Kasakian Garpetian or Garpetian Kasakian, that panel would be skipped over in favor of a new panel.
Because just writing down our names here and trying to come up with a 5-commission or 5-spot rotation, everyone could potentially be on a panel almost twice for an appointment with no repetition, really, of the same combination.
If you were to assign the panels per commission, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. That's another option that you can, or you can put both of those together if you want, or just do one or the other.
I think that was how it was done before. We would see what the panel was for that last commission opening and then continue for that panel. And it may require some more work for someone to keep track of that, but all it is having a sheet with everyone's names and then just checking off who was on it and seeing who would rotate into it next time. And have one for the Commission on the Status of Women, have another sheet for, sustainability, have another one for transportation.
Correct. That's correct. That's our view. I would just know obviously it's more work, but.
And also, it actually, if we are taking each commission separately, then there is a degree of decision making that's basically put on our office, because we would have to figure out who goes next, and I don't think council wants that, because council wants to have the say on who exactly is sitting on that panel, because that I think that's an issue that could potentially come up.
That's not my desire, nor is it what I'm worried about. I think and I think that there was a way it was done before in the method I just outlined, which worked fine. I understand that it's work, but I don't feel it's any more or less work given the frequency of these appointments. The only part that is somewhat difficult is the keeping track of it, which I think can be easily done.
If that ends up being the direction, I think the only direction we would want, or clarification is that going forward with the assignment of new panels, or because we already have some panels already set per the old system, did you want to change those, or do you want to just go forward with the assignment of new panels, and we can work with the clerk's office to make sure.
So here's what I would say, and Mayor and my colleagues, if you'll indulge me, we've already started, so certain panels have been assigned.
Right.
So for that commission or board where there was a panel, we already know who the two are that have already, two council members are who have served on a panel. So it would, the next time the rotation comes up, there needs to be, and I forget what the order was it alphabetical? Is that what had caused it? It was reverse alphabetical alignment?
It's alphabetical in one column, the next column is alphabetical, but starting with the second name.
Yeah.
And I think.
Continue that, sorry,
Sure.
Mr. Garcia, you can continue that just with this rule of no repetition of the same two individuals for a specific board or commission.
Sure. And if that's ultimately is the council direction, we will implement that. Just again, to point out that there are a number of board and commission members that have been appointed already under the old system. So it may be a while before we get to some of these panels on some of these commissions. And if councils are comfortable with that, that will be the direction.
But I do want to make a comment. The calendar notes Mr. Kasakian is the mayor pro tem, so my apologies, Mr. Garpetian.
No worries,
Let's
no
just
big
make
deal.
sure that
No big deal.
the calendar's
It's all good, no
updated.
big
So,
deal.
Mr. Brotman.
Yes, I was simply going to say that I am happy with staff's recommendation to continue the current system with the one change that's recommended so that we don't have repeat panels. But I could go in any direction. So if there's a method, if Councilmember Kasakian feels strongly about doing it per commission or per board, I would support that too. But I think either way, there's no perfect system, and I think the way we're doing it now will eventually even itself out over time. So I'm comfortable continuing with the way we're doing it.
Mayor Satrian and council members, if you would like, Dr. Arman oversees the commission portion of my office, and she could speak to the issues that arise from the different models. If you would like her to speak, she could address that.
Well, I have a couple of questions, and then if my colleagues want to, more than happy. Welcome. So I have two concerns with this. I think one is making sure that each council member has the opportunity to have at least one appointment to each of the commissions. and taking into account new council members that come in. Would your recommended system address that?
Mayor Satrian, in our view, in order to ensure that each council member has an opportunity to nominate an individual, as well as to address the fact that you want to obviously take into account new council members coming on board, which is an issue, the most effective way to deal with that is to change to the old system. Because and my only point is that some of the commissions have people who've been nominated and appointed, and they're going to serve for the next 3 years because they were appointed last year. And so not everybody's going to then have necessarily an opportunity to nominate someone, or maybe they will, but it won't be for another year or two. And I think that's the concern. I know, when Councilmember Garpetian speaks, I'm sure he's going to address that because I know it's a concern for him. So that's the thing. If that's why I made the comment that in our view, making sure you have equal representation versus the randomness of the panel, they're kind of competing values. And so it's very challenging to implement both concepts in one idea. And I think that was the conclusion after Dr. Bajian and Dr. Arman and our office got together, and that's the challenge.
I think, so that's one of my concerns, just for my colleagues to take into consideration. The second is how long it takes to appoint. I can only take responsibility for myself, and I recognize that I have some panels with some of my colleagues that we need to fill, but we do have to make sure that we put a time limit to, if we are going to move forward with the panel system, that, if it's not, the appointment's not done in a certain amount of time, then it moves on to the next panel, and council members are noted that, hey, the deadline's coming up, because I recognize that some of the commissions right now have like 3 members, and and if one person decides to miss, then there's no quorum and the item gets moved or the meeting gets moved. And so for efficiency purposes, to make sure that there's some sort of timing placed on the appointments. Yes.
Thank you for bringing that up. Actually, there is in the proposed resolution, there is a mechanism to address that. We did address it in the report, but it's in the resolution. And what is in there now is that the panel cannot recommend an appointment, or cannot determine the appropriate procedure to, for example, to resolve differences within 4 months of the identification of the nominating panel. So as you know, when the panel gets not identified, it comes to council, it's agendized just as identification panel. So there'll be a 4-month period. If there's no resolution of how to address an issue, the panel will then have to report it back to the council at the next public meeting, and then the council would have the option to refer back to the panel for further consideration or designate a new panel. So that would be part of the resolution to ensure that panels don't go out there for an extended period of time without coming back for a check-in with the city council.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Garpetian?
Yes.
Wait, I'm so sorry. Before you go on, did you want to hear Dr. Arman, or do you want to make your comments?
No, we can hear her.
Okay.
Let's let her first. Of course. She may give us better ideas.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Sophia Arman. I oversee the logistics in the city clerk's office of this process. And I just wanted to provide some expansion on what's already been said. What's important to note, as the city attorney mentioned, is that there's kind of 2 things at play. But one thing I really want to mention is if we were to create we have 17 commissions. If we were to create 17 different panel rotations, then we run the issue of you all appointing different numbers of people during your term, which the current system doesn't do. So because you all go in a list, right, you all are appointing people at the same rate, in other words. If you have a panel system where those are assigned 1 per commission, because the vacancies now come up randomly, right, there's no way to control that within Councilmember Kasakian or Councilmember Brotman's, that you would not appoint 10 people while someone would appoint 3. So it's just, I want to just bring this attention to you because they both have their own sets of problems, and this is what we found by actually setting up a model of what they were, which I know we got to brief some of you on. Either way. Last thing, what I just want to mention is the ordinance, which went into effect last year, has taken a kind of rollout period where we have seen the impacts of that as it has, been implemented. And I do think what happened in the case that brought forward this question is the transition from the coterminous terms of old council members and into the new system, and that will be at a less likely rate based on its design. However, either way, we are happy to execute whatever you all want in the city clerk's office. It's, of course, having 17 panels is tough, but we'll do it. It doesn't matter, and that's no problem for us. I just want to alert folks that no matter what, there is actually a set of realities presented in the panel system. And I'm happy to take questions too on just the general process, but.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Garpetian.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not really in favor of this system. I think we need to put a little bit faith and trust into each other that we are going to appoint the right people for right reasons to commissions. I was appointed as a panel appointee, if you will, in 2004. Councilmember Manukian appointed me, and he was on every panel, but he would invite another council member. I think one of the council members were Councilmember Najarian at that time. So the council member who had 14 appointments, he was part of every panel. But I think that's too much work for all of us as well. And, given the discussions that we're having up here, having a panel on 2 council members, making that appointment and being there and making the right decision. And I believe I have so many people in mind I would like to appoint, and I think we have every right to appoint people that we believe and trust and know that they would do a good job. Right now, the way that the setup is, I looked at it, I will have maybe 4 or 5 appointments, but I think Frank Quintero was a former council member Quintero was a big advocate of this system. He said, you appoint them, you watch the way they perform, you don't call and say, hey, I want you to vote this way. You always can say, look, you can't be rude to for example, to staff or what have you. There's some checks and balances in there. Commissioners are an extension of the city council. I think we all need to appoint our people that we know and trust. And at the end of the day, council has to ratify that decision. The decision of that final appointment comes here and council votes for it. If there's really an issue, then we can't just not vote for one person. Or there were commissioners who were removed because they were not doing their job, they were not behaving right, so we removed them at one point. When I was campaigning, so many people I was asking people, why aren't you getting involved? Why aren't you getting involved? And if they come in and file an application, I tell them, look, I can't appoint you because there's a panel system and I'm only on 4 panels. I think it's going to discourage people from participating as well. And my understanding is Councilmember Kasakian and Brotman and former Councilmember Devine, they already appointed few of their commissions. And how does it work now? Because then they are going to sit on other panels and appoint someone for the same commission, or how does that? I think it's too complicated. And let me give you a reason why I want to appoint my own commissioners. When I was on council, These are the people that I appointed in the past. I mean, we're saying this, it will be very political, it is political. Not everything is political. It's just to your opinion as an elected official, it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to appoint certain people on certain commissions because you believe they're going to do a right job. So right now, if I want someone on, I don't know, planning commission, and I'm not on that panel, if it's political, I have to call other council members and say, look, this is a good guy, why don't you consider him? It makes it more political and it takes a lot more longer. So these are the people that I appointed in the past, and you can see it's apolitical. On DRB, I put Sevan Bendlian, which was an architect and an engineer. On Historic Preservation Commission, Desiree Shire, which was a true historian and passionate about historic preservation. Planning Commission, Greg Astorian, who was a CCIM, and he was an expert in land use issues. Parks and Recreation, Grant Michaels, who was very passionate about parks. He still wants, I don't know if it's on parks still or not, but he wants to be part of it. Civil Service Commission, Albert Abkarian, who was an attorney and is an attorney and really knows his stuff and was really good on civil service. Arts and Culture, Ms. Weyer, Dr. Weyer's wife. She was very passionate about arts and culture. GWP, I put Hrant Avanesian on there. He's a PE. He was the secretary of IEEE. These are the organization that writes and changes all the codes as far as all the electrical codes in the world. And I appointed him. Transportation and Parking Commission, Aram Sahakian, who is the number 1 or number 2 guy in LA DWP. It's just LA Department of Transportation. I didn't appoint people because of political issues. I think we made everything really partisan, everything is really, and it shouldn't be. I want my colleagues to trust me that I will put right people on the commissions, appoint right people on the commissions, and I do the same. I don't think they will appoint people that embarrass them or embarrass the city. I think we just need to go back to the old system. It's easier, it's quicker, and if it doesn't work, you can always change it later. But given the all the reasons that I gave, I believe that I deserve to appoint people that I trust and know and believe that they will do a good job on the commission. That's all. Thank you.
Councilmember Najarian, do you have comments?
I think I would have to agree with Councilmember Garpetian. There is a simplicity and an equity in the one council member, one commissioner process. We don't have to do these statistical permutations and figure out who had, who doesn't have. You got 10, I got 3. And it's not that easy to get together with a council member and do your interviews. I was on one with Councilmember Devine for, Mr. Durham knows, we interviewed him probably in February and December. And it was, you were good, by the way. I want you to know, you were good. But we just never got around to meeting, selecting, and one thing led to another. And I think that selection has gone by the wayside. So I support Garpetian's request to go to the old system.
Okay. Any other comments from my colleagues?
Maybe I'll make one more comment. I think, and I think Councilmember Kazakian could probably speak to this more clearly because I think it was your suggestion that we make the change. But the one councilmember, one appointee system, I think did tend to lend itself to this attitude that, so-and-so is my commissioner and they have to do what I want. And if they don't, I can remove them. And there were cases in the past that we all know of where a commissioner was removed because he or she didn't vote the way that council member would have liked. And the commissions should be more independent. They should be a voice that is independent of us individually, speaking to us and giving us advice. And I think this new panel system so far has been pretty good. I mean, I think having to sit down with a colleague and interview people and select somebody jointly you know, I think it's a better process that then brings in somebody who is independent and doesn't feel like they are owned by Councilmember X or Councilmember Y. So I think that's why we did that. I still like that philosophy. I agree it is a lot more complicated. It is, takes longer. But I still prefer for us to continue to do it that way.
I think it can be done.
Councilmember Sakian, did you have anything?
Sure. Can we put up the PowerPoint slide I just created and sent in the last 4 minutes? So this is what there's 5 board members or commissioners for almost all our boards except for the ones where we have a student member, right? And here on column, the first column, which is the first council member, and the second one, which is the second council member, is a rotation where everyone gets to at least have a voice in 2 appointments per board or commission. Now, again, this is partly our fault, partly I think staff's fault in how this initial reform was devised, where we make that rotating alphabetical, that rotation that's alphabetical apply across the board to all vacancies. So for instance, I've already been on a commission for Arts and Culture Commission, and looking at the list that was provided to us, the next and only available one, I'm on it again. It would only lend itself to common sense to say that since Councilmember Kasakian, since I had already been on that I should not be in that, let it move to someone else. And it shouldn't take that much effort through the listing that I've provided as an example to see who has and who hasn't. Now, staff keeps saying it's work. Honestly, I don't know how much work or mental exercise this is if you're able to keep track of it on an Excel spreadsheet per board, per commission with tabs. Just look at who has and who hasn't had an opportunity to appoint. Go in the alphabetical order until you have the one that fits, that isn't a repetition of one that was prior, and allow that panel to do the interviews and bring forth the nominee for full council approval.
I do think that I don't see this as complete because it's not taking into account the next opening for that commission. So
It's
you
an
are
example.
presuming, right, no, but if we are talking about a fair system for all the council members, the current makeup of, unless you dissolve all the commissions and you start this panel system altogether where, you know, one person's not up in, I don't know, a year, the other one's up in 4 years because they just got appointed. It's not on equal footing for each of the council members. So I don't think it's as simple as this chart, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, if I may just respond to that. So, Mayor Satrian, there are certain commissions to which you have not made appointments.
Right.
Right? At all.
Correct.
And that was part of the contention of this issue. I know you and Councilmember Najarian had some things to say about it. Well, currently there's at least 12 commissions of which, because of the recent election that we had, to which there are 12 times 2 openings, vacancies, because it would be the 2 seats that were up. If they're running coterminous, as we had agreed, correct, Mr. Garcia?
They were previously, but now just the appointments that have been made since we implemented the system back last year, they're 4-year terms.
4-year terms, except when Councilmember Devine's appointees now no longer, unless she was on a panel.
No, well, right. So the ones that she nominated.
Precisely.
And she made a lot of nominations before last year when we changed the system, and that's, I think
How
that's
many?
I'd have to go back and check, but I think to the extent that she had vacancies, she filled them all.
Okay.
And so I think that's the point that's being made. I'm sorry? Except for right.
But for the panels that she was on, not for the ones that were direct appointments.
No, if you recall, before, when the council adopted the procedure to change to panels, there was a window by which each council member could fill their existing vacancies by single nomination. And if you recall, it was a vigorous debate after that. So she, my understanding, she made a large number of individual appointments or individual nominations before the window closed, and we fully converted to this panel system. And I think that's the point that's being raised, that you're going to have, some of these commissions have people that have been appointed, and they're going to serve for the next 3 or 4 years.
So, for instance, which are ones that were direct appointments of Councilmember Devine? Do we have an example? Because those would be the ones.
I don't know if we have those available right now. Do you?
Is there a doctor in the house?
So I have available for you the vacancies, but I can go back and come up with the list of who Councilmember Devine did at the time, and then who is extending into their term. I do want to again emphasize, we got direction from the city attorney's office that post the ordinance, that they serve their term 4 years to the day. So there are people from whenever Paula Devine did appoint that are serving past her expiration on the council.
And if I could just briefly, a couple of points. The panel system that we reinstituted last year was identical to the one that was in place before 2000. I just took that prior resolution and put it into the new one. So it was a rotating system where you did alphabetical order, and then the next list was alphabetical starting with the next name. Then when you went to the next, when you finished a group of 5 nominating panels, you went to the next one, same thing, alphabetical order, and then you went down 2 names. So the difference between that and this is with this system, where you're basically making sure there's no council member who has a second nomination, it's going to be the same panels every time. And so that's why the what's in place now is a true rotation. It's random. It's semi-random, right? Because eventually it'll come back to the top of the list. But it's intended to assure as much cross-mix amongst council members as possible.
I understand. So, for instance, we have a Commissioner on Arts and Culture who was a direct appointee of Councilwoman Devine, who says term expiration is June 2024.
That's correct.
And remind me again why it runs till June and doesn't end in March?
It would have been because for that particular council member, maybe she made the nomination 4 years ago. I don't know, are those updated?
Yeah,
Those are updated. So that means for that particular
post-ordinance.
nomination, she made it 4 years ago.
So let's say someone makes an appointment in July, does that mean their term ends 4 years later in July?
Yes. And we did have that question, Councilmember Kazakian, of if the old system carries over post, right? If they were appointed before the ordinance, and we received direction that they transfer into the new term limits, and so that is how we've been using this system.
So again, and I'll apologize for this, and I'll turn it back over to you, Mayor. My understanding was that would be the case for people appointed through the panel system, and that the appointees made directly through the council appointments would be running coterminous with the remainder of that council member's term. So for instance, when Councilmember Al-Satrian or Councilmember Najarian was going to make their nominations, and anyone who has not yet made those, it would be only to the end of the term of that council member. And when there was a vacancy, that panel would be, that process would be through the panel.
Okay.
I would just say that our understanding is that's not what was ultimately approved. Council can certainly go back and change that, so go back and adopt an ordinance and a resolution that provides anybody nominated by individual nomination shall only serve until the end of their term, until end of the term of the council member that nominated them. We can make that change.
Well, that it becomes true attrition then, though.
Correct.
But it also, no, I would say that it allows for new council members that come in a bit of time to actually appoint somebody. I would say definitely, when I got elected, I went public with the fact that there were these openings, and it took, for some of my appointments, it took about a month and a half in order for me to meet with folks to be able to appoint. I will say, it looks like I see where each of you are going with this. If I can just make my comments on this, and I obviously supported this when this came. I keep hearing the word seniority. I think this is something that supports seniority, and I think it's a made-up concept on this particular issue and many other issues. We are all supposed to be equals, and I want to make sure that a new council member that comes in has the same rights and opportunities as any other council member. I know there was a comment made about commissioners being obliged to go with what a council member wants. I can point to, for example, my Sustainability Commission appointment, who joins us at council meetings all the time. We tend to sometimes oppose each other. I have never contacted that commissioner and said, you know, why do you have that position, or why have you come? If you are the kind of council member that really believes in making sure that diverse voices are heard, then you don't need to tie yourself to the decisions. And yes, there have been times where I've gotten calls from others saying, you know, your commissioner did X, Y, Z, and my response is, I don't dictate what my commissioners do. And so, unless staff can point to me to a way where a new incoming council member has the same opportunities on every single commission under this panel system to be able to appoint for every single one of the commissions, then I would be inclined to support going back to the old system.
Would you like me just to address that? Again, to assure every new council member has the opportunity to nominate to every commission, that's going to take some time. I think two changes to the panel system that could facilitate that and quicker. One is to amend the rule as to those commissioners who are appointed under the single nomination system, to provide that their term is only coterminous with the term of the council member that nominated them, and make that retroactive. So that, for example, Councilmember Devine's nominees will basically be over at this point, and then the panels will take over. And then the other thing, obviously, is to do it on a commission-by-commission basis. Both a little bit more complicated, but that probably goes a little bit further than the current system to address allowing, for example, Councilmember Garpetian as a new council member to have more, be on more panels for more commissions. But the only way to ensure it is to go back to the old system.
Can I ask a question in that case scenario? Is that allowed?
Sure.
I'll make it very quick. As staff, we would just need direction on then when your terms end. So if the council can consider that, because if they are coterminous while still being on the panel system, correct?
Right.
Is what I'm hearing. We would need to understand when they end with you all. So
I think it would be only coterminous for those commissioners who are nominated by a single council member, as opposed
prior to the ordinance.
Prior to the ordinance.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's just for prior to the ordinance.
Or
so
after the ordinance took effect, but that window period that the council
I
members had.
apologize that this
Yeah.
is so complicated, but the only thing I will mention about that is the ordinance also includes the term limits, that there are 4-year terms and 2-year term limits, so we would need to change that. That's also a new addition. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for being here. Mr. Garpetian.
Yes, I also support going back to the old system. And just bear in mind that if Mayor Asatryan, you and Councilmember Najarian didn't miss that deadline and appointed all of your commissioners, there wouldn't be any opening today. You know, because I remember something to that effect, that the ordinance was passed and there was a cooling period and what have you. But I think in the past, when I got elected, I looked at the commissioners. I kept some of them. I didn't remove all of them. I kept some of them because I really knew these people and they were doing a good job. There is no point of me removing them. So, but I appointed some other people that I knew and trust. And the fact that, you belong to your council member and they're going to tell you what to do, we know that's not how it is. Everybody has their own mind and they function the way they are. I think we need to go back to the old system. We appoint our commissioners, council ratifies it, and try it for a year and a half, see what comes back from it. What is the problem? I mean, the way I see it, it works the best way, and it ends with your term. So next council member comes in, has a choice, he or she has a chance to appoint whoever they want. I think that's the fair way to go, and that's the right way to go. So if there are other discussions or there are no other discussions, I will make the motion to go back to the old system. And
Before you do that, sir, if we do go back to the old system, what would happen?
Mayor Satrian, good question. So when we went from the panel system to the individual nominations in 2008, the way it was implemented was we bring back the resolution. We might need to change the ordinance as well, as Dr. Arman noted, to address some of the term limit issues. And then the way it was implemented, and it's probably the simplest way, although it seems harsh, but I think ultimately it corrects itself, is as part of that process, all of the board and commission members are removed, subject to being replaced. And then, why I say that seems harsh, ultimately, when we made that transition, most of not all, but many, if not most of the existing commissioners were reappointed, renominated by, having support by at least one council member, and at least one council member wanting to renominate them. So that's the way it does. And again, there's a little turmoil there because you are adding you are changing the membership and composition of these boards and commissions by doing that. But that's certainly one way to do it. Or we can bring that option back, and we can also just bring that option back to implement it going forward. But again, at that point, it becomes a little bit more difficult to say then who is whose commissioner. If who gets a chance to nominate someone, unless all of you get the chance to nominate someone. So we'll probably have to work out that little piece of it, but one option that we will bring back is to basically remove all the commissioners subject to them being reappointed or replaced by the council.
Okay. All right. Do my colleagues have a preference?
If I might?
Of course.
So I just want to make sure I understand. So we would wipe the slate clean. Everybody on every commission would basically be
Right, they'd be removed, subject to being reappointed or replaced.
and then each of us could then make our direct appointments.
Correct. Correct.
Wow. Okay.
Madam Mayor,
You have a card?
Yes.
there is a card. Okay, I'll wait to hear from the public before I make my comments.
We have one speaker card. It's Ellen Durham.
Mayor Satrian, members of the council, I think I'm on the losing end of this, but I'll speak anyway. I'm in favor of retaining the two-panel system. I think it's a more objective system, and and we've only had it for like a year. So now we went from the single nomination to the two-panel system. Now we're going back to the single. This is one of these issues that I think doesn't give the residents of Glendale a lot of confidence in the council when they're constantly flip-flopping. And probably this is because of the changes in the council from the last election. But, should council policy, city policy really flip back and forth just because the composition of the council changes? I think the two-panel system is good. I think it's more objective. I think with the tweaks Mr. Garcia mentioned, that in time it would even out rather than trying to even out things by starting over again. But whatever the decision is, I would like to see a time limit for appointments, like the 4-month period, regardless of whether it's each council member selecting a board member or whether it's a two-panel system, because I think a lot of times the nominating process really drags on, and there are a lot of empty seats on these boards and commissions. So regardless of what you decide, I think it should be expedited in terms of making these appointments. Thank you.
Do we want to give any direction to staff?
Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Kasakian? and
Thanks.
then-
I'd like to be recognized. And first of all, let me start with the positive of what I do agree on. I do think there needs to be a time limit within which panels make their appointments. And I think staff should remain in communication with council members to remind them when those panels were appointed and what the deadline is, and then also give us an additional reminder, even if it is more work for staff. Whether it's through the city manager's office, the clerk's office, or the city attorney's office, that needs to happen. Or should have happened, because I don't know where we're going to go this evening after some of the comments and trying to read the tea leaves. According to the system that we had adopted, on the civil service appointment panels, there's 2 that are coming up that are listed, right? And civil service is unique because it's separate and it's not subject to the council members' coterminous elections, because it is enshrined in our, I believe, charter.
4-year term is enshrined in the charter, yes, sir.
But on civil service, so there was a lot of talk of former council member Devine and what she has gone to appoint. She was on 2 panels for civil service. According to the Excel spreadsheet that was sent to us, I am on none of the upcoming panels. So technically, I've spent 1 term on council and I've been reelected, and I will not get to presumably appoint anyone to civil service. And that's fine. Again, I'm not here to complain about this, because for me, it's more about the optics and the fairness and the perception of the public. But the only other commission that Councilmember Devine has appointed, she was on a panel to, was HPC. So there's a lot of those other appointments of Councilmember Devines that are now eligible for the new system that we have for appointments. When we look at HPC, on one of those panels, one was for Councilmember Brotman and Councilmember Devine, and the other one was for Councilmember Najarian and Councilmember Brotman. Now, logically, looking at this, I would look at it and say, well, Councilmember Brotman has actually been on at least 2 panels for historic preservation. He shouldn't probably get to be on a 3rd panel. And I don't see what the challenge or the difficulty is of creating a system that would prevent that and allow others the opportunity to be on the next panel. I still believe in the panel system. I will support the panel system. I won't support reverting back to a system of political patronage, regardless of what justifications my colleagues give. And I cannot seem to understand why we are unable to come up with a system that can work, that gives everyone an opportunity to be on at least 1 panel, or be on a panel, even through the system of attrition. So those are my comments, and I won't belabor the point, because I don't think I'm going to convince anyone tonight.
All right.
Can I make a motion?
I think before you make the motion, I think just direction to staff.
Well, we wanted
Mayor,
a motion with
Councilmember
Councilmember Najarian has a question.
Sorry.
And just briefly, the term limits, if we do go to the 1 council member, 1 commissioner system, and we wipe the slate, the term limits are still in effect, still in force, or does that get wiped out?
No,
too?
that's a separate provision of the code, so unless the council wants to wipe it out, it would be, and remember we went from 3 cumulative to 2 per commission.
So I would have no issue with the 4-year, because so for example, when I got elected, there were folks that their 3rd term was not up. I decided to keep them, even though they were not my appointments. And then there were others where I chose to replace. So I don't think that those 2 things are conflicting. If someone chooses to have a new person, they can do that.
Yeah, you have a choice. I mean,
Right,
That's
so-
how it was before. You
Yeah,
come in, you
I
you
think
have-
sometimes it gets kind of murky because you have somebody that's also like involved in the community. You don't want to hurt their feelings by removing them. There's, you know, there's all of that, right? But-
The issue with that is that nobody's being removed publicly. You receive a letter that you're reappointed, or you receive a letter and you say, thank you for your service, and that's what it is. I'd like to make a motion and see where the votes will go, to go back to the old system, and the term limits, we can discuss it. I mean, I don't have an issue with, if a commissioner is doing a good job, they can move to another commission, or they can be reappointed. And you don't have to remove everybody. I think we can look at the current commissioners and see if you want to keep them all, we keep them all. If you want to appoint new people, you can do that as well. It's not that you're trying to get rid of that's not the intention at all. The intention is to every council member to have the right to appoint the right people, you know, that he or she feels fit for that position. That's all there is to it. So that's my motion, to go back to the old system.
And just so we're clear, that would be directing us to prepare the appropriate resolutions and ordinances to implement the system that as it was in place prior to 2023.
Second.
Just question. If this passes, then we will put all the panels on hold for now.
I think
Is that
that's the
right?
most appropriate thing, yes.
How quickly can you bring it back?
I'll have to confer with staff tomorrow. We will bring it back as soon as possible. I mean, I can't say without delay, but we'll shoot for, less than a month, maybe 2-3 weeks.
All right. Roll call? Oh, we had a second? Yes, okay.
Council members Brotman,
No.
Harpetian,
Yes.
Kasakian,
No.
Najarian,
Yes.
Mayor Asatryan.
Yes. Next item?
Next item is oral communications. Discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Council may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The city manager may refer the matter to the appropriate department for investigation and report. We have 4 speaker cards for oral communications.
All right. And then we are taking the last one after the first speaker, both for calls
Yes.
and cards, correct? Okay.
Our first speaker is Leonor Solis.
I think she
I
left.
think she left. Our second speaker is Jay Russ, I think. Hi. Come on up, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you so much to our mayor and the council people here. I'm Jay, and I was just really taken with the inclusiveness of seeing the groups come from, they're part of the groups, Philippines, and being honored, and the Jewish community and things of that nature. So I really am appreciative for that. So I am speaking today on substantial remodels when it comes to the renovictions and things of that nature. I know you guys just had a new ordinance change where you've kind of did some new things with renters' rights. What I'm asking is that you go back and fix some of the wording for substantial remodels, because what is happening is that some landlords are basically saying they're substantially remodeling when they're really not. And some properties have already been substantially remodeled within the past year. So how often are we going to allow this loophole to continue where there's one substantial remodel after another? So if we could look at South Pass, how they say substantial remodel, it basically is something that is necessary due to hazardous issues or safety issues. So we need to really take a close look at that, because people are looking at Glendale. As I was in Burbank's city council meeting recently, and they're looking at the ordinance and what you're doing. So I'm asking that you look at that. And also, we're going to talk about the relocation assistance for substantial remodels. Now, it used to be last year that properties that had 3 or more units were able to get relocation assistance in regards to rent evictions and substantial remodels. For some reason, that was changed with this new renters' rights ordinance. I don't know why. I asked the last time I was here. We need to get that back because as I hear the terms here, equal, justice for all, as we pledged to the flag, as the people came here and they were honored with the proclamations, we all need to be treated fair. People want to know that they matter and that they're worthy. And I've actually heard individuals in court say, well, Glendale's not even saying that, you know, that's important for them that all of these tenants are recognized as far as the relocation assistance when they've done no wrong. So I'm asking you again to take this back and vote on this. I know Councilman Brotman, he's for it. I'm asking the others to please help with that. And lastly, I just wanted to say thank you to Councilman Vartan. You mentioned earlier about faith and invocations, and that's something that's near and dear to my heart. A few years ago, God birthed Love Heart through me. And we work with people. And May is actually International Love Heart Month. And we go out, we do Socks for the Blocks, we work with the homeless, we give back to widows and children, and we are faith-based. So praying is like something that I love to do. So if that's something that is of interest to you, please, of any of you, I would love to have a conversation with you about that. I do have a flyer. I just so happened to put it into my my purse. So if you're interested to hear more about my ministry, let me know, okay? But please, relocation assistance, we need that for every tenant, not just some, because so many of us are being left out. And for what? These tenants have done no wrong. They paid their rent. It's just that for some reason the council has voted to exclude. We don't want to exclude. Earlier, I think you were reading something, or one of you, about Native Americans. We want to be included. We want every tenant to matter and know that they matter. So with that said, thank you so much, and God bless you. Dios te bendiga en español.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Romela Eragi.
Yeah, it's been a while. I haven't spoken to this chamber, in this chamber. Yeah, it's not that I didn't want to, but I didn't have the opportunity to do that. A few weeks ago, I attended Burbank City Council. And I was wowed by the way their mayor was conducting the chamber. Yeah, it came to the, it was about, it's about oral communication, public comments at the beginning of the council meeting, at the top of the hour. And you can't believe that, Ms. Mayor. There are unlimited people could talk at the top of the hour, at the beginning of the hour. And yet we here have only 5 cards. In the Burbank Council meetings, there are unlimited people could talk at the beginning of the council. I mean, it's at the extent of democracy. I mean, wow. Yeah, that is pretty obvious. The Burbank Council members are being elected by the, I think most of them are, the majority of the voters are the entertainment industry. And for that reason, yeah, the entertainment industry, they're more Democrat and more open-minded to the issues. And yeah, for that reason, yeah, they're being elected by that. Versus Glendale council meetings are elected by the liberal liberal member of the community. So that's why we see the difference. Here, the public has been disrespected by the council. Just I say because of the we already know who are the majority voters. Yeah, that's the issue. Yeah, I hate talking to the
Please speak into
empty.
the microphone.
No, no, I'm here to talk to everybody. As a matter of, I hate talking to the empty chairs. Anyway, at the end of the, I'm tired. Actually, boycott that. I'm boycotting talking at the end of the council meetings because there's nobody here. I mean, and it's disrespect to the public that they have to wait hours and hours to talk to the council. And second thing that that today was brought up to this council was Nigerian. The public are not going to pay for your lawyers. I think you have to provide your own lawyers if you want to sue this council or the city. I think you're a rich man, you can afford the lawyers. Versus tenants that they need right to counsel and they cannot have any, they cannot have, they don't have access to any any counseling, and having a hard time to deal with their landlords and yeah, when it comes to the when it comes to the council rights. Yeah, no, you're gonna go hire your own lawyers. Not the public is not gonna pay for it. Yeah, basically that would be all. Yeah, thank you.
May I respond briefly?
Thank you.
I would rather that we go through if you can hold it till then. Thank you. I had comments too, just decided to hold. Please, go ahead. No, go on.
Hear the other speaker, the next speaker. The next speaker is Maura.
Hello, good evening, councilmen and councilwomen. I don't see any other here, men and women. I'm gonna talk about a few things. First of all, I wanted to ask you, do you know what is a digital contact? I'm just asking, it's a fair question. Do you know what's a digital contact? Well, if you don't know, then the 7th graders in the city of Glendale are more knowledgeable than you are, because it is found in their sex education book for 7th graders that they were supposed to be learning in the month of May. 1 month is dedicated for 7th graders as a sex education. So digital contact, please go and search what it is. I don't want to be pronouncing it. Are they oral sex and anal sex in that book? Yes, they are, Mr. Broadman. Our Nigerian doesn't lie. I'm one of the parents who have been following my students throughout their school years. Please look at me when I'm talking to you too, Mr. Broughton, because you're calling parents liars. We're not liars. I do go, I talk with the teachers, I look at the books. I went to the school district, Glendale Unified School District. How do I know about that? Because I am the one who took the pictures of that book, Positive Prevention Plus. That is the title of the book that was being taught to our students, 7th graders. I have the pictures from the book. So there's some things I don't think you would like your 11 or 12-year-old kids to know that. The teachers are given the freedom to bring any booklets, any videos, anything that they would like to enrich their class. When I asked the teacher, can I please find out exactly what are you gonna be teaching my child during that 1 month? Oh, please go to the GUSD. Well, you are the teacher. So I went to the GUSD, I looked at the book, I took the pictures. Then I'm asking the GUSD staff, are the teachers allowed to show whatever they want that will accompany these classes? They basically said, yes, we don't want to put the material that comes originally with the book because it's outdated. They're like old. So the teachers have the choice to choose their own material. So they're very good teachers in our schools, but we also know that they are teachers who do have the mindset and the agenda to do transform our kids from male to whoever what they are. But on another note, I talked with admin of one of the high schools, and they are the words, exact words, that we are here to serve the children. So if there are any parents listening, please understand that the schools are supporting the children, protecting the children, but they do things behind the parents' back. Where does it come from? There is Hazel group, Hazel therapy group that they're being money allocated to some therapists, external therapists who can work with our children while our children can be even in their classrooms, or they can be taken to their other rooms. Okay, there are special rooms there. So, and when I asked, what if the child doesn't want the parent to know that he's changing his gender or his name, can the child be connected with that external therapist or a counselor? Because it says that with the parental consent only they can be connected. But then when I said, what if the child doesn't want the parents to know? So the answer was, well, then we have to connect the child to the therapist. So here we have a situation where we have a child who doesn't want to disclose whether it's a male or a female or whatever to the parents, but the schools are going to help them to be connected to external therapists. Who are those people? So things are happening. Mr. Najarian or Council Member Najarian is not lying. Okay, we have many parents in the city of Glendale who are, yes, they became aware of what's happening, and we did raise our voices. So do you want to call us all liars? Council Member Brotman, you can go ahead and do that, but we're not liars. I'm one of the parents, I have 2 kids. Okay, and I'm one of the parents who follow up.
Thank you. Next.
Our final public comment is by Fernando Roldan. Fernando, you're on air. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Really quickly, I just want to say, with all the discussion that has been talked today in today's council meeting, I asked Councilman Bogman and Councilman Najarian, please, let's bury the hatchet. I mean, I'm not saying don't keep arguing, but the thing is, this argument has gone a lot too far. I mean, there are a lot of things going on in the world that, you know, we must, as Glendale folks, we have to stop. And one of them, of course, occurs, and I'm still going to insist on my city to do, is please create a disability advisory group for the city of Glendale, because, you know, unfortunately, we disabled and seniors are being left out, and we need that support from our city. I'm asking that from my own city. So we got to stop this these racist attacks and this whole thing about discrimination and all. I mean, you know, we need to love everybody, no matter who we are, what we are. And I am asking my city, please, let's support each other, not fight against each other. Yes, let's have dialogue. Let's argue, but not in a way that start attacking. Okay, this guy said. No, we need to be better than that. We need to be smarter than that. And I'm asking my city for that support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Councilmember Najarian, did you?
Yeah, a couple things. To Ramela, I am not asking, and nor has the city paid for my attorney. I'm asking for the city to pay for honest advice for their own attorney. That's what this discussion was about. The second comment is tomorrow. Please, if you have those books, because I've been called a liar on here about the oral sex issue, I'd certainly love to see that. Apparently this is now an issue, and I'll be happy to take that from you or anyone else that has evidence of this occurring, for which I've been accused of lying about. And we'll see how that evidence is, whether it's actual, legitimate, and authentic. Thank you.
Next item is adjournment. I do have the bio of Dr. Misak Barsamian. If you can pull up his picture. was a beacon of compassion and service, passing away on April 27, 2024, after a brave battle with illness. He left behind a legacy of healing and unity that touched countless lives. Graduating from the American University of Beirut with a medical degree, Dr. Barsamian established himself as a prominent gynecologist, founding the Barsamian Hospital. His leadership extended to the Lebanese Armenian Medical Society before he immigrated to Los Angeles in 1978. In LA, Dr. Barsamian's impact was profound. He co-founded the Armenian American Medical Society and organized the Fourth Armenian Medical World Congress in 1987, showcasing his commitment to advancing healthcare and fostering Armenian unity. Beyond medicine, Dr. Barsamian dedicated himself to community service, serving on various boards and committees, including the Holy Martyrs Armenian Apostolic Church and Ferayan High School. Survived by his wife Rita, daughters Garina and Astrid, and grandchildren Soler and Remy, Dr. Barsamian's legacy of love endures. A wake honoring Dr. Barsamian will be held on May 17th at 6 p.m. at St. Garabed Armenian Apostolic Church, 1614 Alexandra Avenue in Los Angeles. In lieu of flowers, donations can be made to Armenian Relief Society, Mother and Child Achurian Birth Center, and/or HBU Hygiene Pregnant Women's Centers. And if I can have one of my colleagues adjourn in his memory, or make the
So
motion
moved.
to.
Second.
Thank you.